basically, Liz and I, okay, have been married for 29 years. I was with Liz, and I got the chance to put Pamaniche on my shoulders and walk around with that, and that's an experience all its own.
Yeah. What did that feel like?
That's just it's just amazing to have this, beautiful human-like um, creature, riding on your shoulders just like a child. And part of Liz's research involved my daughter. When she was 2 years old, they would compare learning rates with my daughter Heather out at the lab. So Heather grew up. Her first memory was of Pamaniche, who would basically have been a teenager bonobo, and was always in the picture, and loved Heather. Heather's first memory was of Pamaniche changing her diaper. Now, I don't know if that's healthy, but that's her first memory.
How did Pamaniche learn to change her diaper?
Watching. Pamaniche could just watch, and she would learn. You wouldn't have to instruct her. Take the tape off the little diaper and do this, and she could just watch.
Where did this take place?
This was in Atlanta.
But I mean, was this in the lab or the home where the diapers were being changed and so on? Do you know?
I think it was in one of the. The lab had trailers where you could go and do things, and I think she was probably in one of the trailers, or maybe one of the concrete lab buildings. I could go in with the little ones, and if Liz was with me, I could go in with the mature ones, and it's an interesting thing to go in the first time. Matata, who was the matriarch, was the first bonobo that I went in with, and Liz was by my side, and I didn't know what to expect really, and Matata was really very sweet, and she was the only bonobo that was taken from the wild at what we think was about 5 years. She was orphaned, and but she had a really sweet disposition. And when I walked up to her, she reached out and took my hand and held my hand while wearing it, and it was a warm moment. It was really nice. I enjoyed that. So from there, I had a chance to interact through not hard cages, but just soft cages and all that, which were amounted to really. I don't like to use the word cage, because the facilities that I've interacted with them are really connecting rooms and tunnels and stuff, and really quite humane. To use the word cage is really not accurate, because it sounds like you put them in a 5x5 or something and lock the door and go home at night and all that, but it's nothing like that at all. Let's see. Oh, here's a cute one. Bonobos are at least 7 times as strong as human beings. And I was playing, I could play with the young bonobos and just anywhere. You know, I didn't have to have a guard or anything. And so there was a young bonobo, I believe it was Nathan, okay? And had Nathan not died, he would have been a real superstar. He was a real character. He used to blindfold himself and get up on the ledge. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but he would get up on a ledge, and we had fire hoses, you know, for them to climb and swing on, and he'd get up on the ledge, and then he'd blindfold himself, and he'd jump out and catch one of the fire hoses. One time he missed, you know, and he just kind of looked around, scrambled back up, you know. It was kind of an embarrassing miss, but I don't know where he came up with the idea to do that trick. But another time, he and I were playing tug of war with one of the hoses that we hosed down the place with, and we were playing tug of war, and the floors always kept spotlessly clean, and they're tile, or well, it's not really tile, it's polished cement or something. And so I was dragging him around and all of that, and he was maybe this high, and there was a wall. Anyway, there was a wall jutting out, and he had the hose in one hand, and he took the corner of the wall, no handle, no nothing, and grabbed the corner of the wall. And there was no way I could pull him. And I was a grown man in really good shape and much younger. And the tug of war stopped, and he won. You know, it was kind of funny. It was a lot of fun. I used to spend nights with them because they were used to having a human in the building after we moved here. And I'd get up about 3 times a night, walk around, and they liked that, but because if there was something out there, it would eat me first, you know. So, but I would get up really, really early in the morning, and one morning, Pam and Isha came out and to see what I was doing, and there we had some Ethiopian flint that we brought from Ethiopia. That was on the ground outside the fence. Okay, that was the inner play yard. Okay, and then there was a fence, and you could walk up, but you shouldn't get too close. But I was breaking the rules. But I had a piece of Ethiopian flint, and I had found just a hammer stone. Okay, basically a big piece of granite or something that was just lying around. But Pam and Isha came up to the fence. She was just hanging there watching me, and I said, Pam and Isha, and she had already learned from Dr. Toth how to strike and make stone tools and do all that. And I said, tell me where to hit this to make a knife. And her English comprehension was unbelievable. And she had her hand on the fence, and she took her ring finger, and I had the stone up to the fence, and she pointed right to this place where it would cleave. And so I took the hammer stone and hit it, and this knife went flying, and into her play area. And so anyway, she went and got it, and then bonobos will take a stone tool and they'll put it in their mouth and roll it around to see if it's sharp and a good instrument. And she did that, and she liked that, and that was pretty good. And then she, I got to see it, and I was proud of myself because I had never done any napping, and it was really pretty good little knife, So I said, "Pamela, can I have my knife?" And she was not going to give up that knife. Pamela could actually invent words that weren't on the keyboard, Like at one time somebody, I didn't agree with this, but somebody put some razor wire on the part of the concrete wall that went into the lake. They put some wire out there. I wouldn't have found that necessary, but I think Liz was working with her and was trying to explain this was dangerous and sharp and blah blah blah, and she came up with knife fence and pointed to that, and that's just one example. There were many times that she would invent words by using two of the words that were on the keyboard. Anyway, I'm from the South, obviously, but up here there's no poisonous snakes, and there was a species I didn't know, okay, but I saw this farmer, just walking with this 4-foot snake, and I stopped, and he lived right down from the lab, and I said, I'd kind of like to let our bonobos see a snake close up. Would you be kind enough to let me have that snake? And because he was just moving it from his cornfield to the woods. And he said, I will if you'll promise to release it and do all that. And I said, oh yeah, that's the plan. So anyway, I got this 4-foot bull snake, which I had no idea they were so gentle and nice and all that. And I took it. They were in the viewing room. Okay, there was Matata and Kanzi and Pamanisha and I guess that was it. Anyway, so I pull out this 4-foot bull snake, and I thought it was kind of and I held it to the glass, just to see what the natural reaction to a snake would be. Now, Matata always seemed to have memories of being in the wild, whatever that means. And her first reaction was to back away from the glass. Obviously in the wild, they don't play with snakes. And so her first reaction was to back away from the glass. But and Kanzi was cautious too. He kind of backed away. But Panmanisha, I may have mentioned earlier, she was one of the few apes that would just do things because they were interesting, not because they had a food reward or anything like that. No Skinnerian kind of thing. And she walked up right to the glass and the snake. It was just, she really wanted to see what this was. Honestly, she was involved up to here she was immersed. Mm-hmm. in bonobo culture, and also common chimpanzee, and we had an orangutan culture, and that was her sole career, and she was there, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, whatever. She was totally immersed in it. So there wasn't much change to see because she was just so immersed in it,
Yeah.
quite frankly.
And it sounds like you got kind of close too with Panvenetia. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Oh
like-
yeah. Oh yeah. You get anybody that works with bonobos, they get to where they love them. They're just lovable beings. Very lovable.
Do you miss them?
I do. I miss them a great deal. Sure do.
When was the last time you saw Panvenetia?
Time goes by so fast. It's been over 2 years. I'm trying to think when we lost Panvenetia. I wasn't at the lab at that time, but yeah, I do. I miss them. And Matata was one of my favorites because she held my hand and all that, and she was always so sweet. She would get up. She would be one of the first ones up because she would sleep in this end of the lab, and then there was another end of the lab, and the greenhouse was in the middle, and the caretakers would let the bonobos go through tunnels, to get to the other side, to go through the play yard or whatever it was, and Matata would get up, I guess, at dawn, and she would sit quietly by the fence and just look up at the door on where her children were going to come through. But she would wait for them, from dawn, and just sit there quietly, just waiting for them to come through so she could see them. It was interesting.
When they came through, did she hug them, or what happened when they came through? Did they greet each other, or?
Oh yeah, in the course of all of that,
Yeah.
that was there was a lot of ape interaction, yeah. We talked about apes all the time at our house. That was. I tried to add up all the words one time. I thought, okay, let's see. The average couple talks maybe 30,000 words, and probably 20,000 of that was the day at work and what the bonobos did. So I got to know what bonobos did all day long. Where they went in the woods and what they did and what they saw, and we always did that. Now Heather, of course, could communicate with the lexigram board. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with that, but she could communicate that with before she could talk. So yes, she was very much enriched by that.
Yeah.
It would be hard for me, even as an educator, to put my finger on it. Okay, but indeed, yeah, she was enriched, and she's turned out to be a very compassionate person, and I think that's part of it too. So, yeah, I do. I think she's very, very.
Do you think her language ability moved more quickly because of working with the lexicograms early on? You said she communicated with the lexicograms before
She could speak.
Yeah. Did she use them alone with you then to communicate? Like at a young age, she would use them to ask you for things, or?
No, not me personally. I didn't. I'm kind of like a control ape. I never learned the keyboard, so that's another funny story. A friend of mine who is also my physician came out to the lab, and she was in the middle area where you can walk and get right, next to them, but not in with them. Okay, and of course she was just fascinated, and being a physician, and so Kanzi wanted some food, and I don't know what it was, grapes or salad or what it was, and he had a lexigram board, and he saw a new person, so he thought, well, I'll just get some food out of this new person, So he's just typing away. I want some of this. And Dr. Rose, I had to, since I didn't do the keyboard, I had just communicated in English, to Kanzi. I said, Kanzi, Dr. Rose doesn't do the keyboard, and, so, we can't do it that way. So, people donate salads and stuff that come in plastic containers, and the next time we walked by, Kanzi had an empty plastic container, and he's holding it up to Dr. Rose. Look, an empty container. There are a lot of government plans to release common chimpanzees and all of that from the research cages and all that, but that's going to be over a long period, and that's going to take government funding, and there's kind of an anti-science movement in government that is going to delay a lot of things, and that's the world according to Sam. But I would like to see all captive apes in a sanctuary setting. I really would. Just a sanctuary where they can, in a warm place, where they could, live in longhouses if they wanted to, and have a wilderness all around and all that. That's what I would like to see. But that's a pipe dream, because it would take so much money, and the government would have to be behind it, and with the anti-intellectual, anti-science movement that's going on, that's kind of a pipe dream. But yeah, I'd like to see them all in sanctuary. There are many, many scientists that are very doubting about their abilities and their language abilities, and some scientists have even gone to the point of saying apes can't even point to things, okay? Now, I've seen this 100 times. I mean, Conzi used to have a window in the kitchen. There was kind of a, pardon me, there was a perch where he could sit up and watch everybody cook for him and do that and interact, through the glass. And he always enjoyed getting water because he would get attention and all that. So, and I remember one time we had a very organized kitchen. So, pots and pans were here and da da da. And drinking water glasses were up here. And he caught my attention, and he knew at that point I didn't do the thing. So he's pointing to the water glasses, water glasses, So I went and got him some water. So that was funny, but I would tell people to keep an open mind. I have seen people from theoretical physicists to MDs to lawyers to psychiatrists, just clinical psychologists, all come and visit and realize that there is more to it than just a simple circus trick. There's a lot to it. This is not some metaphysical and even though I'm just telling you anecdotal kind of things, it's a very real world for them and for people that work closely with them.